Do you want to make your own podcast? Spotify has a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters. And this is the platform that I use because it makes it so simple to record and distribute your podcast all in one place using your cell phone. What you need to do is download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. Hello, my name is Catherine Moore, social worker, mom, coffee lover, and founder of Social Workers Rise, where we inspire social workers to connect, expand their knowledge, and change more lives than they ever thought possible. I'm so excited you found my podcast. We will talk everything social work on every level from micro to macro. We will hear the stories of social workers who are doing big things, learn new skills, and most importantly, give you actionable steps to make a difference today. Let's go. Before we hop into this episode, I want to share a brand new resource with you. As social workers and mental health professionals, we know that clinical supervision is vital to the service of our clients. But traditionally, it's been very difficult to find clinical supervision that's a good fit outside of your job. Or as a clinical supervisor, it's been really challenging to connect with new professionals who are looking for your unique skill set that you bring to supervision. So there is a new resource that I'm so excited to share with you. The Clinical Supervisor Directory is coming very, very soon, and it is the go-to place for clinical supervision. Definitely get on the interest list now so you don't miss any updates on this launch. The link is in the show notes.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi, Amanda. Welcome back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, me too. I'm glad to have you. So we talked about so many good things last week, like blew my mind. Thank you so much. So this week I really want to know, with all of these things going on and starting the business, did you ever feel a sense of imposter syndrome doing this?
Let's think. So, yeah, I feel like the point when I really felt the imposter syndrome, I'd say, was when the test got changed back in around, I guess, right before you would have taken it, 2015, I would say it was. I don't know if you remember, but the test got changed, or it was and the law and ethics got created, and the MFT clinical vignette portion changed. And so I had to redo the tests, redo the program. And what I realized was that the first time I did it, I was driven so much by passion, and I had just been teaching the materials for Grossman. Everything was so fresh. I had recently taken the test that I wasn't in the same headspace. And I also am the kind of person I'm much more effective communicator when I'm spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't type out my whole lectures or anything like that when I'm teaching. I mean, now these days, if I've done some speaking and stuff, I do have made efforts to write out more, but I'm much more comfortable having the points that I want to make in my mind and then being alive in the moment and sharing it in a more kind of authentic, spontaneous way. Well, the problem with that is I legitimately couldn't remember what I said on the recording. So I had to have the test transcribed. I had to have my whole program transcribed so that I could even see what I said about each thing to then just, have to rework it to create a new thing. But I had a lot of anxiety. I mean, when that happened, when the tests were changing, we didn't know exactly what they were going to look like, but they knew it was going to change. At that point, my husband was working for the company as the finance guy, and I had these coaches on staff, some of them part-time, some of them full-time, and obviously me. And so my business was supporting my family and parts of other families. And so the pressure was different than it was when I was starting, and there was no pressure. There was a
Mm-hmm.
lot of pressure. And I have to say that it gives me a deeper appreciation for people who have jobs that are high pressure, because that's an intense thing to have. And I think in the field of social work and therapy, we don't have the same kind of pressures that people in other fields, business fields have. And obviously we're probably drawn to our career path because of that, and them for that reason. But yes, I was very much in a state of panic and felt like I, was a fraud, that I, doubted myself. And when people say, "Oh, you deserve, you work so hard, you deserve your success," I think the first time around, no, like I just joke. I'm like, I just bought a microphone from Amazon and I just started talking into it. But the second go around, when we had to redo the test, that was like pulling teeth. It was so
Mm-hmm.
hard. And we actually expanded out, doing more audio rationales uh, than we had before. And so I did like a couple, probably more for the MFT. That one I remember because I went up and Asia helped me. And it's so much thinking power to have written questions and then to sit and think, to explain them. And at the time too, I didn't have anyone with me, and now I know that if I'm going to do recordings, I have to have somebody sitting with me, or like you, or we're on the phone and we're talking. Like going talking to myself in a room to a microphone is completely crazy making. It really is really an odd thing to not have any kind of feedback or response, or I don't know. So I definitely had some legitimate nervous breakdowns, and there was a point where I was up in near San Francisco, and Aussie was with me helping me, or it was, she lives up there, so I went up there and she was kind of checking in on me. And then at one point, it was literally, she was like, "Amanda, you need to step away from the microphone. Like you are like your brain, you can't." And I'm like, I can't think anymore. Like it's my, and she's like, you can't think
Right.
any, like you're done, your brain is fried. And it was, um,
We all need them to tell us that.
oh yeah, no, I can remember. And then like I went over to her. She's like, "You need to come over to my house," because I was staying in I was staying at this little bed and breakfast. So it was a bed. There was a bed in it, and it was a small room, and there was a little desk, and that's where I was living and recording these things. And she's like, "What are you doing when you're not like, what have you been doing to take a break?" I was like, "I've been watching Law and Order SVUs." And she's like, "No, like you're coming home. You're coming home to my house." Like, yeah, I haven't watched this in a long time. I'm like, "Those shows are really disturbing." I'm like, "I think they bother me more that I have kids." And she's like, "They were always disturbing, Amanda." Anyway, yes. So yes, that was a very challenging period, but it was also good. And like I said, I really, really relied on my team, who helped me through getting all that done, and certainly writing the questions that we have. I just feel like we have top notch questions, and we really make an effort to make them more challenging than when they get in the test, so that when you get there, you're prepped. But yeah, certainly then. And then obviously, I think a more specific place that I would have, that I felt like an imposter, was certainly working as a therapist. And it's an interesting field where we, right when we start and we're in school, we're already thrown into being an intern, which is kind of terrifying when you think about it, because we really don't know what we're doing at all.
Right.
But part of being good is to have put on an air of confidence, right? Like we're not going to go into a session and tell our clients we have no idea what we're doing, like, but tell me what's wrong. And so that's part of the rub, is that to be effective, we need to put on an air of confidence, which is by nature not accurate to what we are actually skilled to do. So I do think that that's a very normal thing that we need to talk about more in the field. And I also feel really lucky to have discovered and put able to put resources into my training as a Gestalt therapist, which I did 12 years of intensive training in Gestalt therapy, which meant that I did these it was a weekend training program that was 6 weekends a year, during kind of the school year calendar. And then I also did 7 or 8 8-day intensives that were actually up in Santa Barbara, and that's how I even kind of got to know get to know this area, or gotten to know this area, was because of those trainings. And in Gestalt therapy, the trainers work in front of you with, as you know, with demonstrate pieces of work with people that are in the workshop, as real people. It's not role playing. You're seeing them do therapy with real people, and then you also, as a therapist, work in front of the group or in small breakouts. They'll always great breakouts. So everybody always works as a therapist in front of other people. And I was really drawn to Gestalt for a number of reasons, but I just love that piece of accountability and real transparency. A lot of these trainings that you go to, people just sit up there and talk about what they do, but you don't see them do it. And you don't don't see them do it live. I mean, maybe, Sue Johnson or these people, they give videos of themselves doing something with someone, but yeah, it's easy to do a highlight reel. There's just something really powerful about seeing in real live time, something amazing happened that's never happened before with an interaction. And that's what blew me away with these trainers, with the Gestalt community, with Lynn Jacobs and Gary Yontef and Friedemann Schultz and Jan Reckert, who passed away, and Lillian Norton, Frank Stemler, Donna Orange, these people that are just really contributing to the field of humanistic therapy in a way that's really beautiful, but that they're real, edges to them, and they can sit down with anyone and in 15 minutes just turn on a connection and dig deep and get stuff. It reminds me, I don't know if I don't know if you've seen the documentary on HBO called The Vow, but it's about the cult, Nexium, that was out in Albany recently, and the guy just got, in October of 2020, was sentenced, the leader of it, and his co-creator of the cult was actually a therapist, and the techniques that they used in these, like, self-actualization and workshops and stuff for personal growth, a lot of them were very similar to kind of stuff that you do in Gestalt, which is basically that one thing, if people are truly vulnerable and someone knows what they're doing as a therapist, and we can make a space where people open up and share stuff about their lives, I mean, that's hugely intimate. And the release that people feel, and the relief of kind of a burden being shared, right? Like, we don't really get rid of our burdens, but we can have someone at least bear witness and share. That's really powerful. And then if you add that to doing that in a group setting with other people, witnessing that, there is like a connection in a community that develops. And what's interesting with that Vow, that movie, that the documentary, The Vow, how that's abused. And that's one of the things that I always really appreciated with the Gestalt community, is the sensitivity that the leaders had to that. And really, they were seen as celebrities. I was 27 the first time I came up to the residential here. I was the youngest one by 10 years, and everybody else that had come to this training was coming from all over the world, really experienced trainers. And here I had no idea that these trainers that were teaching were we're over the world to see them. And here they were, just people that taught them. So there's really these rich resources in our certainly down in California and LA, the Pacific Gestalt Institute is where they are still, offering trainings. And but going to the imposter thing, that really exposes that. And I think that thing that I is just the accountability, and certainly the feedback from the instructors, because they don't tell you you've done a good job. They are always looking at what we'd call like your growing edge. So they're always kind of looking at what you need to do next. And so when you ever did get positive feedback, you really felt like you earned it. But for me, I was always really curious about wanting to get better. And I think that that's the difference too. We mentioned it last time we spoke about kind of my own personal decision to not just be a good person, to be a better person. And I think that if you have that attitude in every area of your life, it just really transforms your experience, because you're looking for feedback, you're looking to grow. And that allows, if you're true to that, there's an inherent humility that has to go with it, which is, I don't know everything. And so I think, when we're starting out as therapists, you have to balance like a confidence. And I mean, what I say, and I did group supervision at Southern California Counseling Center, is that what I'd want people to go into with a confidence of listening and understanding and connecting. And we all have that capacity. Obviously, some people have to you're starting the main my opinion is the main thing that people want, and this would be supported in like the humanistic theories, is that people want to be understood, really understood, not changed, not improved, not judged, but just really, really understood. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved that with Gestalt therapy because it actually gave you the tools and stuff to really dig deep and also pay attention as your own person in the room with someone, how you bring your own understanding of your own experience that's happening at the same time. Tool. And so, yeah, sitting in front of other people and being a therapist is super, super nerve wracking. But it's the best way to kind of address that imposter syndrome is to actually get real feedback from people about what your strengths are and what areas you can grow on, and then work towards that. And sadly, I feel like the problem in the field of psychotherapy is, one, the training programs are really short and they vary in their what they can cover. And then there isn't any kind of requirement after the fact. I mean, we have CEU requirements, right? But those are very unregulated and it's not clear what people are actually learning. And there's no way to really to change that. But that's part of my interest at this point in my career, is to come back and bring to the field, the insights that I've learned that I think have made me, I mean, like for the Gestalt, one of the things I'd say, besides my jump shot in basketball, which can I also just say the reason why that is the thing that I am most proud of is because I know how many hours it took to make that jump shot. And I'm 46 years old, and you give me a basketball and I can go out to the free point line. I just did it the other day with a friend and I made 7 out of 10 shots, and I know I
What?
was not in my good shooting clothes and I would do better. But I'm proud of that because I know how much time it went into getting that. And similarly, I became certified. I got certified with the Pacific Gestalt Institute after 12 years of training. And I can
Wow.
say that is one of the most things as far as an academic experience, there's nothing that I'm more proud of than that, because there was a written test, there was an oral exam, and you had to do a live piece of work with an individual person, like with an individual person that was random. And you also had to facilitate a group process. And so it was and the written test was, you had 2 hours. I didn't have the questions in advance. They were asked me anything and I had to write essays and turn them in. And similarly, I didn't have any context of what they were going to ask me. So I've had to know my stuff, and it felt well earned and deserved when I got that sense of accomplishment. So that definitely alleviated. But that being said, even after that, when I started to, because I did a lot of Gestalt training before I ever actually went into private practice. And up until that point, I was doing more very social work stuff in the field with home visits and psychoeducation, and working for a bulk of my time after I got licensed anyway. I worked did home visits in the West Side for families that were referred by DCFS as the highest risk for having their kids removed. So the kids had not been removed, but we were doing that high intensity intervention to try to try to support the families through therapy and connection to resources to be able to keep their kids at home, because we know that it doesn't usually happen out of the blue. People that when things happen to kids, there's usually been multiple reports before. So I was working with that population. So and that just felt different, because it was different. It was more social work as opposed to psychotherapy, pure psychotherapy. So when I actually opened my private practice, I had at least 8 years of Gestalt training, and I still felt like an imposter. I still kind of felt like, I can't believe people are paying me this much money to talk to them. And I definitely had moments, which is also what inspires me to do the CEU stuff in particular, where I had in 1 week I had 3 different clients with varying levels of suicidal ideation. And I drove home and I parked on the side of the road and I started banging on my wheel, saying to myself, this is why I didn't go to med school. I did not want people's lives in my hands. This is why I didn't go to med school. I
Oh,
didn't want people's lives in my hands. And at the time, I was in a supervision group that I had organized myself because I wanted it to happen. That's what I do in life. If there's something that I want for myself, I just organize it for a bunch of people, then I can enjoy it too. So I reached
love
out to
it.
Gary Yontif and I was like, would you run a peer consultation group? Um, and he's like, if you organize it, sure. And so I was like, well, what day are you available? He goes, here. And so then I reached out and I got, I don't know, 6 or 7 people, and we had this weekly it's weekly or every other week. I can't remember. But anyway, we had this consultation group, which I just have to say, if people are in private practice, and this is interesting to me, is that in the UK, they don't have the CEU requirement. What they have in the UK is that if you are doing psychotherapy, you have to be receiving supervision. It can be, even if you're licensed, it can be group supervision or individual supervision, but you have to continue to get supervision. And I feel like that's something we should really consider pushing for in California, because you need someone else to bounce stuff off of. You just do. And if
Yes.
it was actually part of a marketplace thing where people could get it out, like let's say you're in private practice, then you could pick your supervisor, right? Or you could pick your consultation group. The thing in too in the UK is that people would form their own peer supervision group, so you could do something where you didn't have to pay. But ideally, what would happen here is that people that were known to be good therapists, good supervisors, could start to have that be part of their practice, and could, someone that wants to get better and has feeling like an imposter could go get supervision from those very people who are really good, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and because CEUs, there's no accountability with CEUs. And
Right.
I guarantee you that a lot of, like, when you look at the things that people get in trouble for with the BBS, with ethical violations or legal violations, I would say that you probably have half those, if and those are just ones we know about, but you'd see a reduction in those if there was a requirement to get ongoing supervision. I mean, even if it was every other month, every other 1 hour for 20 clients or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
um, this consultation group, I remember going to, I don't know if I called Gary at the time or if I went to the next group, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, these people, I might be suicidal. I don't know what I'm doing. And he was just like, he's like, calm down. You totally know what you're doing. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, and so we just like talked through stuff. But what it really highlighted to me was, wow, I don't feel like I got very good training in suicide management. And that
Mm-hmm.
is one of the courses that I'm working on already and plan to put out, is around suicide management, and specifically around around the clinician's experience of managing it, because it's intense. It's
Yeah.
an intense thing, and it doesn't get talked about very much. And it's shocking to me. Just recently, they changed it, so now this 6 hours is required for California. But it's really ridiculous that we had like an HIV requirement, but we didn't have a suicide requirement,
Right.
you know um and it's like an EMT not knowing CPR. It just doesn't make any sense. So we talked, just kind of transitioning into what you brought up last time as far as topics for this time, is the CEU thing that we're putting out is really based on my own experience of what I feel like was what has been good, the kind of training and information and the tidbits and lessons and articles and things that I've read and things that I've learned from these top people, um, along with my own experience and development. What's been really nurturing and helpful, and then also these areas where I was like, wow, I didn't get training in this. And I was thinking, here I am, someone who's had 8 years of Gestalt training and therapy, and am in a consultation group with really skilled clinicians and an awesome, world renowned Gestalt trainer, and I'm freaking out. How does the average person who didn't ever have any kind of training and doesn't have a support? I mean, I had, I think I even called like three different of my therapist friends. I had a bunch of people that I really respected as therapists that I could call and immediately consult with and make sure that I felt like what I did was right, and they all assured me of that. But a lot of people don't have that, and I think that's one of the things I really am going to be with TDC, um, creating a course around creating a peer supervision group, and what that means, and kind of a commitment to certainly holding each other accountable, but also alleviating that imposter syndrome. Because yeah, I mean, there's going to be, when you talk about the ethical aspect of scope of competence, we're not competent in most things. It takes a long
Mm-hmm.
time to become an expert in anything. And I had a client once that came in, and her main thing, she was complaining of really bad anxiety. So then when I did like the biopsychosocial assessment on her, and she shared that she was suffering from insomnia, where she would wake up at 3 in the morning and not go back to sleep. And it had started, I don't know, 10 years before, whenever the Cal Northridge earthquake. She'd had it for like a decade,
Oh,
and
wow.
it was and she was it was clear to me that all of her symptoms, while they looked like anxiety, were related to her insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Can you help me?" And I go, "Well, I just want to be honest. I have not treated insomnia at this level before. And I could feel like I can do some stuff with you to manage this other, these kind of symptoms, but it seems like it's really linked to the insomnia. And until you get that in, and I had a really great acupuncturist down in Santa Monica named Lori Binder, and I called her and I said, I have this client. Like, what do you think about, because I'm very interested in alternate treatments of things besides just the Western medical model. And she's like, oh yeah, like that's liver chi and balance and blah blah blah. And so I suggested to this girl, like, here's my acupuncturist name. Like, why don't you go and see? Because she didn't want to take meds. They want to give you sleeping pills and all that stuff, and those are
Mm-hmm.
dangerous. And
Yep.
she went, she had 2 sessions of acupuncture, and she came the next time. She'd had one and had made some, she had one treatment and she slept better and she felt better. She had a second treatment, and then she called and canceled her next appointment and was like, oh, I'm better. I'm totally fine. I have no more
Wow.
anxiety. I know. Yeah. So, but that, I think that that's important when you're in, certainly in, if you're in an agent's, well, and I also remember one time when I was supervising, at Southern California Counseling Center, and one of the people that I was supervising, they gave them a case where the person had Asperger's and was struggling with severe depression and had Asperger's, and I'd had no background with Asperger's,
Mm-hmm.
and I told the client, and my trainee was anxious about it, and we were kind of doing some, and I go, you know what, I need to talk to the director because I can't supervise this case. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm even once removed. Like, I would feel more comfortable if I was the one doing the therapy, because I would have sought outside consultation, um, if I was actually going to take that case.
Right.
But as a supervisor, I didn't have the capacity to do that. And I was once removed, and I felt like I couldn't insure it. And I just went to the director and I said, I can't supervise this case. So you need to find someone else that has a background in it, or I don't know what they ended up doing, but I was like, I'm not going to have this. So I think it's important for people with the imposter syndrome to actually do a real, and this is where it helps to have people to check in with, is to really do a check and say, is this, you know, imposter is when you're pretending to be something that you're not. So as long as you take responsibility for what you do and don't know, and take the actions that you need to ensure that you're competent, you're not an imposter. But if you pretend like you can do it when you can't, then you are an imposter. So do I think that there are actually therapists out there that are imposters? Absolutely. There absolutely are. And unfortunately, but that's part of the culture, and it just kind of gets passed down. It gets passed down to therapists who are promoted to supervisors just because they get licensed, and they don't actually, really know what they're doing, and they've never gotten good supervision, to know, how to be a good supervisor. So it is an interesting thing to discuss and tease out. But certainly, I can say this: nobody becomes a therapist wanting to be a bad therapist.
Right.
Everybody who decided to be a therapist wanted to help people and wants to make a difference, and do that. And I think that there's a lot of things I hope to contribute to the field that allows for better supervision, better processing of, I mean, it's a lot when people come to us with their suffering, and we are in a position where we're expected and we want to help them feel better. That's a big
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. I mean, we obviously have a legal obligation to them. We have an ethical obligation to them, but the personal obligation that we make. I mean, when I did home visits, I only had, at the most, I think, just because I had the time allocation of driving and spending, it was more intensive treatment, but I think I only had 8 clients. And then when I had private practice, I really limited my private practice to the most 10 people. I never wanted to do 10 more than 10 hours a week, because I just felt like emotionally I couldn't hold any more people like that than that. And it
Yeah.
just amazes me, people that are seeing like 20, 30 clients a week.
It's a
That is an emotional toll.
Yeah. I know
It is an emotional toll.
there was a time where they wanted me to see 8 to 10 people a day and
Oh my
do
God.
therapy for depression.
No, it's
And
irresponsible.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. And, to be honest, a lot of the caseloads that new social workers or social workers in general have, I think they're not sustainable, they're not realistic. And then we start feeling or doubting ourselves like, oh, other people are doing this. This is the industry standard. What's wrong with me? But
Yeah.
it's nothing wrong with you. It's the industry that has these unrealistic expectations of the work that we can effectively do.
Yeah, and I think that social work in a lot of stuff has moved towards kind of best practice models, which move more towards manualized treatment, which is more about affecting change at an individual level. And I think that we need to, first as a profession, start to cultivate more communities of learning and support with peer support consultation groups, but also recognize how important that is for our clients, that we have to, a lot of them are socially isolated. A lot of
Mhm.
them, even if they're not socially isolated, don't have good relationships, good functioning relationships in their lives, which means that there's probably some that could be improved that they could lean on. But that also there needs to be, I think, if we want to make radical change in the field of mental health care, that is going to, stymie the shift of the downward trajectory where we're headed, certainly with COVID. I mean, I think COVID's a great example of where we see the impact of social isolation. The problem is that we've been headed that way before COVID. COVID just
Mhm.
is like a wake-up call, like, oh wait, this really affects people if they don't interact. Well, what's weird is I think COVID's going to have more people work from home, which is going to now limit people's main source of social support that was left standing, which was the workplace. And obviously, there's pros to working from home. Certainly, if you have kids, it can be better. But ultimately, we're social creatures, and we're meant to be part of community. And it's our engagement in community that gives us meaning and purpose, and
Yeah.
lets us feel like we matter. And at a fundamental level, that's what we want and need. And so I think that certainly as a from a field of social work, and our ability and the value we place on, looking at things from, a micro um, and macro level, that we have to start to, as therapists that work at the lower levels, or at the individual level, start to have discussions about, ways that we can start to create a bigger social fiber. Like a great example is I started I feel like we need to, one of the things I'm going to be putting out as a CEUs in the coming year is stuff around group work. I feel like there was a time when group work was very prevalent and popular, and that was, back with Gestalt, certainly in that movement. And we've moved, and it's a very effective treatment in inpatient, right? And people that are in hospitals, they all have you go to groups, and certainly in AA, like that is, like I was just talking to a friend, AA, AA is the most successful substance abuse treatment model there is. There's nothing else that comes close.
Mm.
And as far as cost effectiveness, it's free, right?
Right.
But it's also just highly effective. I mean, it doesn't work for everyone. It does not work for everyone. But the thing is now within the AA community, I feel like there's such a range of approaches that allow for people that may have an issue with the spirituality or component. But I was also need to add is Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is similarly a highly effective weight loss program. Both of them are about community. Both of them are about having meetings available where people can show up and be with other people who are struggling with the same thing. And there is such a power in that. And it really is the fact of the matter that, when you show up and other people have showed up, just by them showing up, it means you matter too. Like everyone matters. There's no group if no one shows up. That's what I always say to myself when I'm mad at traffic and I'm sitting in traffic. I always say, "You're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. You're one of the cars on the road. You're part of the problem. Chill out, Amanda. You're part of the problem." People don't like it when I'm in the car and they're like, "Ah, traffic, traffic." I have this one friend. It's so funny. She's like super nice all the time, except in traffic. In traffic, I'm like, "You have the devil inside of you," and I had no idea. And one time I said to her, I was like, we're part of the problem. And she's like, "Rah!" I'm like, whoa, okay. Didn't say that. Didn't say that. We are victims. We are so victims right now of this traffic. Um, so yeah, I'm excited. I have an awesome team. Like I said, I said last time, my coaches, and then I have some great people on my team, Lindsay and Todd. Todd's came with experience in kind of marketing and community relations, and partnering with different groups to figure out what they need as far as CEUs. And then my sister-in-law Lindsay came on board. She had a production, um, worked in Hollywood production, so she's working with me to help get organized to push out some good CEUs, and then also bring in other experts and stuff to create CEUs based on people that I've experienced that I had with them. So I'm excited. We have a really great HIV course, which I recommend everyone taking, even if they've already taken HIV, if they're looking for something good, because she worked in the field. She worked at the very first hospital in Minnesota when HIV was discovered, and they were first dealing with it as a health crisis. And there's just so many similarities with any kind of disease, including COVID, but any kind of disease where there's stigma. I mean, once somebody has a disease, you have it or you don't dynamic, and then you also have the management of a chronic disease, which I think with COVID, sadly, we're already hearing that we are going to have, like some people have these ongoing health issues. So, but one thing I want to say about my CEUs that I'm very, very excited about is that 30% of the proceeds of the CEUs are going to go to fund a foundation that I'm starting called the Sadaka Foundation. And Sadaka is
Sorry, I'm still not sure about that.
Something just happened. I love when I never use Siri. Is that who it is? I don't know. I'm like, Alexa. I never use Siri, and I think she gets annoyed at me because she'll just interrupt me, and I'm like, oh, I get it. You want attention. Sorry, Siri. No. Whoever it's Siri, right? Yeah, it's Siri on my phone. So what I was saying is, yes, I'm starting. When I first started my company and it started to take off, I felt really uncomfortable with how much money I was making. I grew up with a teacher, like I said last time. My dad was a teacher. My mom was a school nurse. We were just solidly middle class, drove used cars, saved up for vacations in 3-star hotels. So and I kind of grew up with this attitude that rich people were assholes. I mean, that's kind of what I think it helps you cope when you are buying used cars. I don't know. But when I started to make money, I was like, felt uncomfortable with it. And it does give me some discomfort, even though now I'm certainly can't lie that it is nice to not be stressed about money. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, I think it's my watch. I don't know. So anyway, I kind of made a commitment to the universe or God or whatever, that once I got to a threshold of my profits, that I wanted to make sure that I started giving back. So I have given a lot on my own to different groups that I am passionate about since the start of TDC, and we have social justice codes that we give to groups. But my passion and where I want to go, I think, with my life now is to actually start a foundation where I give more specifically to projects and innovations that I think are overlooked, or because of our system of bureaucracy and this kind of bowing down to evidence-based methods that I think are deeply flawed, and how they come to their conclusions with the research that they base it off of. It's in the works of starting this, what's called the Sadaka Foundation. So Sadaka means justice in Hebrew. It also means charity, and it's a concept that is basically like, not is where we think of charity of like, oh, it's an option, but in Judaism it's basically a demand. It's a mitzvah. It's like, no, you give back. And there was part of it was you give 2% of your farmlands, 2% of the fruits of your labor should go to the poor. And so when we launch these CEUs, 30% of the proceeds are going to go to my Sadaka Foundation, and the Sadaka Foundation is going to be funding innovations in mental health promotion. So looking at ways in which communities, very targeted giving, that's community driven solutions, that come from the community itself. And a good friend of mine that we met, actually, I mentioned last time when I worked at the Needle Exchange in Venice, she ran it. Her name is Amanda Andrade, and she's this little pipsqueak from Spain. I keep forgetting that we're getting older because she's still very Anyway, she's so cute. She lives in Switzerland now. She's from Spain, and she's so funny because the very first time we went to dinner, and I call her my first friend because I feel like I went through college and I had friends and here and that, but I never felt like someone I had this really authentic friendship with, where I could just be fully who I was and not have it be, some people can't tolerate you being sad or anxious or whatever. And we connected, and we went to dinner. I took her to dinner for her birthday because we both had just started working at the place and we didn't really know anyone. And I knew she said something about it being her birthday the next day. I was like, let's go to dinner. So we went to dinner in this little restaurant on the lower Main Street of Santa Monica. And I remember I was asking her, like, what are her life dreams? And she said, I want to adopt babies from Africa. And I was like, wow, like that's impressive. Well, she has two beautiful children that she adopted from two brothers that she adopted from Uganda. And
Oh,
she lives in Switzerland.
oh,
Can you
sorry.
hear me? Sorry, my phone rang, and so I'm gonna did not
Oh, okay.
disturb. So
Go ahead.
she's now a mom of a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it's just so fun to be past that stage. I'm so
Yes.
mean. I'm like, I remember the stage where you used to have to ask this little person for permission to go to the bathroom and talk on the phone.
Yes.
And her oldest son, Omara, he came on the phone. He's like, I want to hear your voice. I want to hear my mom's boss's voice. And I was like, oh, hi. And he's like, when are you going to come visit? And I said, I'm going to come in the summer. And he goes, oh, no, you need to come on Thursday. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'm coming Thursday. And like, I just love little kids, little logic. So anyway, has her master's in human rights and is similarly passionate, has done a lot of work in Africa. So it's going to be we're going to have an international, we're going to give international locally, and I mean, in the US and internationally, and putting together people in my life that I have collected along the way that have various levels of expertise, but, really hoping to figure out unique solutions. Like one of the ideas that I had based on knowing this friend that I met named Yossi Nope, who is Israeli, and he went in and into these towns and stuff and helped to build basketball courts for the community and provided basketball, and how it transformed the community to have this fun activity that, we live in the state, we have those kind of things here that a lot of times aren't even used because we just take them for granted. But in these communities where he went in and did that and then helped organize basketball leagues and all the stuff, and remember meeting him, and I have a passion, I mentioned already, with my jump shot for basketball, and somehow that came up, and he told me about that idea, and I was like, wow, I mean, that's the kind of thing that promotes mental health in a community, a place where people can gather and enjoy each other and be physically active, and it's these kind of things like that that are actually like not that expensive of investments in a community, but that with the right support can actually really transform it. So that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping I humbly hope that we will accomplish going forward. But I'm definitely excited to let people know that those CEUs, when they buy them with TDC, they are paying it forward literally, with their investment in their own professional development. So I know we're getting um, close to your time of
Yeah,
ending. I don't know if there's anything else you want to ask about.
no, that's amazing, Amanda. I mean, just hearing you talk and your story and all of the things that you've accomplished and the business that you built, me starting out, I feel like I'm a newbie compared to you. So me starting out on my business journey and entrepreneurship and doing my small part to, help shift this industry, it is really inspiring to hear your story because it just reminds me that I'm just getting started and to be patient with myself and that all things will happen. So just I thank you for sharing your story. I did have two questions. One is, does it take 12 years to get certified in Gestalt theory?
It I mean, it varies from person to person. I would say, like, it's not a cookie cutter approach. They don't have, because it really is this thing where you're ready when you're ready. And very few people who start doing the trainings ever get certified, because I would say, like, the fastest you could possibly do it would be in 2 years, because
Okay.
you also have to do a certain number of hours of individual therapy with therapists. But I think the people that are really committed to it and want to get certified really recognize that you don't do it till you feel ready.
Mm,
And I probably could have gone for certification earlier. It just wasn't something that was important to me. I felt, I was a goal that I had, but it wasn't until that point where I had the time to actually put to prepping for it the way that I needed to, as far as, actually reviewing all the reading and feeling competent to take those exams. it was, it was a lot, but I mean, when you do the Gestalt trainings, a lot of people do them without ever getting certified. So, and obviously get a lot out of them. For me, it was just it was something that was an achievement that I realized pretty early on, that if I got certified, it would be something that I was really proud of. And, I got certified in Gottman's Bringing Baby Home, which was, go up there and do the, I mean, it was like a joke. I mean, it wasn't a joke, but compared to, there's some people have certifications. I liked that this was a certification really based on a reflection of, did you have this mastery? And they have a high bar for mastery, which I think is good. I wanted to say to you, Catherine, I don't know if you've, know about this, but how important setting goals are for yourself, as far as I'm going away in a couple of weeks with a friend who's coming to work for me to help with the CEUs, and we're doing basically like a mini strategic planning and putting the goals out for the next 5 years, and then breaking that down. And that's a really important thing for people to do. And I've done it many times in my life, is, you just sitting down by yourself and saying, okay, in 5 years from now, what do I want to have accomplished? Like, what's a reasonable thing for me to have done? What do I see myself? Maybe you have a private practice and you say, okay, I'm seeing an average of 10 people at an average of $150 an hour. Like, you write that down. Maybe I'm supervising someone. Maybe I've written a book. Maybe I've, now I'm, a guest lecture. I'm an instructor at whatever the thing is. Like, really put down what you want. Like, what do you want to have accomplished professionally in the next 5 years? And then you start breaking that down and you say, okay, well, if I have these 5 things, what do I need to do in the next year to work towards those goals? And each one, tease that out and then put it on a piece of paper and put it in your purse and carry it around with you. I mean, in research, this has been studied. Like, this is how people get things accomplished. You have to really, maybe you share it with other people, but not in a way that would be like sharing it on social media, where then you feel like embarrassed that you haven't gotten those things done. But maybe it's just someone that's like you have a good close relationship with, that you're just like, this is what I'm working towards, this is what I'm excited about. And that's also where those kind of peer support groups can be really helpful, because people can share those. But you only get somewhere you want to get if you know where you want to go. And very few people do that. And certainly in the field of social work and therapy, we're so focused on helping other people get better and accomplish our goals, their goals, not our goals. That'd be nice. But there are, that we miss how important it is to we talk about that. I'm sure you've heard, like, manifest things. I mean, really, manifestation is goal setting. It's just actually saying to the universe what you want to have accomplished. And that's a very powerful act, and something that most people don't do. But aside from the, spirituality component from that, whether you believe in that or not, just the act of, like, taking the time to sit down and write those goals out. And, every so often you can come back and maybe some of those goals change. And some of those goals should be non-professional, right? I mean, I definitely at some point in my life said, you know what, I want to add at least a new friend in my life when I moved up to Santa Barbara and I didn't know anybody, and it was really hard. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make a goal of trying to make one new friend a month, and invite that person out, and, like, make an effort to get to know people. I mean, the friends that I have today after being here 7 years are all pretty much different than the ones I first started out with. But a big reason is because I kept adding new people, and then I just, like, replaced the bad ones.
Right.
It's so awful, but it's true.
That's amazing.
So yes, I think it's amazing that you've created this podcast. That just shows your initiative, and that's a really powerful gift to have, initiative. And so you doing this is really exciting. And, at some point, if you ever want to chat off again on the podcast, if you want, or off podcast, I love to chat with people about stuff, especially when I'm out walking and getting exercise. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. Thank you so much, Amanda. You always have a spot or two or three, however many episodes you want on
Yeah,
the
well,
social
just
work.
reach out. I'll be, and when we launch, yeah, anytime we launch new CEUs, I'd love to come share them with you, and the excitement. And I think our goal is also to just put a lot of stuff out for free. And then if people could, people can get the knowledge, and if they want to go take the post test, they can take the post test and pay for the CEUs. But it's weird to me that we have I feel like it should be a field where we people can get, access to information without having to. Certainly therapists don't have the resources always. And it's like, why aren't we making more of this stuff just available?
Definitely. Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I really, really appreciate your time. And it was a pleasure having you on the Social Workers Rise podcast.
Thank you, Catherine. Have a great day.
You too. I'll call you just a debrief for like a couple minutes, okay?
Okay, cool. Bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Social Workers Rise. If this episode helped you, please help me spread the word by leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcast, and share that you're listening. Tag me on social media. I love it. I will repost and reshare. I love it. Social currency is free, but it is so valuable. Also, I'd love to hear from you on Instagram. I really do respond. I really do love it when you give me your feedback. Lastly, this is not therapeutic advice or business advice or any other kind of personalized advice. To get that, you definitely need me as your coach. So please, again, reach out to me on Instagram. I can't wait till next week. I will see you then. All the love. Bye.